I don't look pasty as fuck. Noted. Yes, sir, dudes and dudette.
Oh, fuck. I promise I will never do that again. No, Anakin's definitely
Yeah, I
just
think
thinking really hard.
Yeah.
Aww.
See, now he's buffering for me. I didn't know it was a
Definitely
thing
not.
until you went live, bro. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a trailer for it, and I've been actually pretty interested in it. But like for me, the appeal with just D&D games, like games just based off the D&D world, is the world itself because the world is so vast and so, I guess, interactive in general. I like seeing that in video games, regardless of like if it's more role play based or more gameplay based. So I'm always interested in those types of games, anyways.
Yeah.
So. But yeah.
I mean, that's
can
the thing
definitely see
about
the appeal.
games, right? Is just like it's all personal preference too. Like,
Yeah.
there's gonna be somebody that's gonna play it. There's gonna be people that are gonna love it, and there are gonna be people that's gonna hate it. Like,
I guess that's everything, isn't it?
yeah, honestly. God, I am so. I don't know what's happening. I'm pale as shit today, you guys.
But
I mean, just from what I've read about it, it doesn't look too like healing.
yeah, Dark
I'd have to
Alliance.
see more of it. I'd have to actually like sit down and spend like 20 minutes watching some gameplay to really make a final decision.
Yeah, what they've got now is just like, I think they opted out of the top-down version because that's how action RPGs are played. You're running around with this aerial view, kind of destroying shit, and that's kind of like how the last one was. This one's from a third-person perspective behind the character, which is weird, but it looks cool. Graphically, it looks cool. Aside from like, I guess, a lot of glitches, which is so weird. I don't know why games nowadays you can't have a video game without glitches. You know.
Honestly, they
That's how
just
it
need
is.
to forget about all of this and just invest in Elder Scrolls. I think that, honestly, call me a simp, but The only fantasy like video game I've ever played that I actually genuinely enjoyed was Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and 5.
Well, absolutely, and that's something that Dylan and I, in
They
and of
wrote the book.
ourselves, have just like talked about. Is there is no game that has ever done open world like Skyrim did open world. You could literally do anything and everything. I'm even taking Breath of the Wild off the table. Yes, you could go straight to Ganon if you wanted to, but in reality, if you didn't have all the mechanics, you still couldn't even get there. Like, you can literally walk up the mountain to the end game at level 1 if you really fucking want to. Like, it is the roleplay game of roleplay game. But we do have some people in the chat already asking questions. So today we do not have anything prepped. It's just a free roam conversation, hanging out. It's been kind of a wild month for a lot of us. So we figured we'd just hang out and enjoy each other's company. Alex asks if there's time, he'd be interested on how we deal with problem players. And this is actually really interesting because we have had to deal with a couple problem players, and we'll keep names out of it for anonymity's sake. But we have had some issues that ended well and ended poorly with people having to be taken out of the channel. So as the mod team, I will open this conversation up to you guys because this wasn't something I was, in charge of. But Dylan, you had some issues with players.
We've had numerous issues. I wouldn't say it's like it's like a drop in the bucket compared to how many issues we don't have.
Exactly.
So, but we've had a number of issues, and I would say there's a lot of ways to handle problem players in the midst of a session. If something's going dead wrong, the biggest problem for me has been you're streaming, so it's hard to corral people because now you're just gonna turn the stream into drama. At that point, we were like, listen here, and everyone's gonna be like, oh snap! Now we're all tuned in. We're about to see the DM go off on someone.
Let it throw down.
Yeah, that's the hardest
It almost
part.
sounds like you should do that to get the views,
Right? Like you just
Right.
become a drama channel.
Just the thumbnail on that YouTube video,
Right,
just
I'm gonna have to
DM goes
Like
off on bad
pre-screen.
players.
you to cut this shit.
Pre-stream, you're gonna be like, okay, everybody, roll 5. Whoever
Oh
it
my
lands
God.
on is gonna be the problem player today, and it's your job to create drama.
Oh my
So
God.
that DM can yell at you and get views.
Like a reality freaking TV show.
Honestly, yeah, it's a reality show at that
Oh
point.
my
It's great.
Is
God.
that not all of Twitch in its entirety, though?
Yes, absolutely.
Basically.
And that's the beautiful part about Twitch.
Like, but the
I still think we should all get VTuber avatars.
the
I
whatever
still
we're
think
called.
that
I forget what those. What are they called?
VTuber avatars.
VTube.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My God. But to the question.
Steph looks the most on board.
It depends on the severity of the issue at hand. Like, because there's all kinds of different problems. There's subtle ones and there's big overt ones. Overt ones are like if someone just full on rages mid game and starts just breaking stuff. If he's just like, screw you, I'm burning the whole place down, or I'm slaughtering this person and everyone else in here. Like, if they just go off, then you kind of have to just put the brakes on the whole game and call them out, which is hard to do on a stream. That's if you got that level of problem. Other problems that are more common are like, if they're taking too long to make a decision, or if then you gotta find ways to push them forward, either by just straight up doing DM hand holding. Be like, guys, stop all of this. We need to move forward. And then most people will just acquiesce to that once you just kind of just call them out gently on it. But there's other ways you can do it subtly, like the door magically opens. Ace's advice on the mansion where people took over an hour just to enter the dungeon. The door magically
And not
opens,
even just to
or-
get there,
God,
just
I
standing
that was
outside the
probably-
door.
The rerun of that session is probably hands down my favorite game I've ever played with you guys.
Those-
So,
Either
Those-
that or the Vikings.
Vikings
the
is
Vikings.
always good. Vikings
Other-
is just like...
Mm-hmm.
Other player problems are like people who talk over other players, or they constantly ignore what everyone else is doing, and the second they get a word in, they just boop chuck right in and start going off what they want to do, as if that other people didn't even talk. Those people, yeah, that's another one where you just kind of have to call them out on it. It's very hard to do on stream. I keep thinking that, but it's just like call them out on it. You have to prep yourself as a DM To
The biggest problem player I've ever come across is the rules lawyer, hands down. I've told you guys this story, but I'll reiterate it for the stream. I play in a very different setting than Dylan. I play with groups that I've been playing with for years. We were doing a one-shot, and it was level 20, and this guy brought in a Beast Barbarian. This was back when the Beast Barbarian was still UA and still broken. And he was trying to do something. I guess it had some ability that gave other people the ability to use reckless attack. And I made a ruling, which I might not have made now, but in the session, that's my ruling. Is I said if they accept this, then they have to use it. But he didn't like that, and he brought the session to a grinding stop to argue with me over it. And he had already argued with me 3 times before, and that's when I ended up just kind of saying, all right, man, just go. You don't need to be here. This is the 3rd time you've stopped the session. I'm done with it. And then I was going to talk to him after the session, but then he started, just like cussing me out on chat, and it just got ugly.
Yeah.
Claire, you might remember it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, handling those situations, depending on the severity of what happens, is either they just go, because some people, there's a boundary line. Whether you're streaming or you're not streaming, there's just a respect line. And if you're going to cross that respect line, do you even deserve the respect of trying to have a conversation to fix it? And it's a balancing act where, we had a situation with somebody arguing with the DM, and all it took was a simple one-on-one conversation, and that person is now thriving in our community, has been in multiple sessions, and we all grew from that experience. Whereas
I think I know who you're talking about, and he's one of my favorite players to watch now.
Oh, I know, exactly, right? And sometimes it's literally just talking to somebody, whereas having somebody that wrecks a session completely by just in character saying, well, I don't like that you did that, I'm just gonna leave and burn down the church. Like, there's a difference between chaotic players, or chaotic characters, and chaotic players. This is not a game. This is not a place for you to disrespect your other players. That's not what this is about. And if that's what you're gonna come in to do, this isn't the environment for you. At least here. You might find one, but we're too much about respect here. So that was a situation where it was like, no, we don't even want to continue to have that disrespect in this environment, so you have to go. And unfortunately, there were also outside issues just in community, but just as player problems. I think my biggest pet peeve, outside of rule lawyers, because it's not a DM, it's not as impactful on me, is players talking over each other, especially when a plan's already been made and in action, and then somebody in the middle of the plan going off goes, but wait, I have this. And it's like, we're already here, we're literally down the road, we're about to start talking. And it's like, where's the line of too many ideas? And it can be hard as a DM to give everybody the respect of giving those ideas.
Yeah, that's...
That being said, sorry to cut you off, Dylan, but I have actually 2 things to say. First, as a DM, you still have to handle that respectfully, even if the player has gotten crazy, because the minute that you lose your temper as a DM is the minute you lose all credibility among all players. Yeah. Not even just the problem ones. All your players will now see you differently because you lose your mind over that. That's happened to me before. You have to just put on your customer service face and get through it. Once it's gone, then you can be like, but I was right. Yeah, I was right, right?
Yeah.
and then the players will back you up on it, and you'll feel better about yourself, and you can keep moving.
Yeah, that's happened to me before, mid-session too. It was all very subliminal, but like I didn't have to necessarily call a player out too much. I call them out a couple times, try and corral the whole talking over people and screw what everyone else does and says thing, and then somewhere along the line, the players in character or even out of character start kind of like adding on to the pile. Like, no, yeah, you're kind of annoying. Like,
well,
you know,
and as
like,
DMs, at least what I've seen from Dylan and Anakin, because I've got to play with you guys multiple sessions, not just like one or two, but you guys handle it in a very good way where somebody will be talking and then somebody just like jumps in and is like, wait, but I have this, and both of you go, well, hold on. There's already somebody trying to try something. Let them try what they want to try and see if it succeeds before we then pile on something else. And that can be where players are like, but I have this idea, this could work, and this could work. But like, you need to see what works first. Like, if something's going to work, why are we trying a million different things, you know?
Yeah, one thing at a time.
Yeah. So I think as a DM, y'all have handled that correctly and in a good, respectful way. Because it's all about respect at the end.
Yeah. And it's very important to keep calm, like Ace is saying.
Yeah, the two biggest things are, like you said, respect and patience.
Yeah.
Patience with both yourself and the other players that are acting up are the key factors to getting through it. Because if you have the patience to handle the situation, then you'll be able to handle it just fine. Just be able to go with the flow of whatever problem's going and making sure that's being able to put under the bridge, at least during session. And then after session, that's really when you deal with it. For different problem players, like I honestly am not very experienced with having problem players. I can count maybe on one hand how many times that I've had sessions where people do either like just talk over each other or get in each other's way. There are like very thin lines in between getting in each other's way and actually playing the game how they want to play it.
Yes.
Very thin lines with that. I've had sessions where literal civil wars within the party, and it's hard to manage that, and it's hard to gauge and like actually understand, is this what they want to do, or is this just happening because there's a misunderstanding?
Right.
Like, so having like out of mind, like out of character, like understanding of the situation is very important too. Like being able to slow yourself down and analyze the situation, and even to pause the game for 5 seconds just to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yes.
Is really important.
I want to move on to the topic, since we're on this topic of how to be respectful as a player, but Alex was giving us some stuff in the chat. He said the problem was already resolved because the campaign was canceled, but from DM's perspective, I would like to see how you guys would have handled the situation. He says, so the player missed 2 sessions due to vacation, then the 4th of July we missed a 3rd, and people couldn't play this week. So the player freaked out in Discord, then left the server. And inevitably, I guess they just canceled the campaign. So, you know, null and void on that end. But is there another way you guys might have handled that situation?
Honestly, if he left, you know? Time to find a new player. Keep the game going.
Yeah, I think
So there's not a whole lot you can do with certain players, especially if they leave themselves. Like, you can talk to them afterwards and say, hey, is everything all right? Are you sure you want to do this? That sort of stuff. But ultimately, it is their decision.
No.
I think the only potential issue worth talking about in this specific instance would be like if that player didn't leave and still wanted to be a part of things, but he's already missed 1, 2, 3 sessions, like on all different reasons for different occasions and stuff like that. So say if that player's still stuck around having to deal with that, that's a tough one. I think that one does warrant a conversation where it's like you have to actually let them know how much you care about your D&D sessions that you make, and like and let them know you just don't abide by tardiness, you know, like.
It sounds like he missed 2 sessions for valid reasons. I mean, it doesn't say that. Like, maybe the guy was sick or he had something going on.
Yeah.
Because real life does come first, but
One of the
it sounds like when he was ready to come back, it was the 4th of July and people were on vacation. stuff, and he got mad because there wasn't going to be a game.
Yeah.
He says the player was
So I
always
see-
checking out too.
And it seems like he was a bit of a problem player from these new messages too.
Well, that brings me to the topic of, like, as a player, being respectful and understanding as a player what your expectations are. Because speaking of civil wars in the party, I remember during the Proteran campaign, there was a very struggled time. It was like 3 or 4 sessions where in character, and not necessarily in a bad way, but there was a lot going on within the environment. They'd lost a friend, they'd lost a party member. Things were very tense, and one of the characters wanted my character to give him alone time in a room in a dungeon that we were constantly getting attacked in, and my character literally being like, as usually all my characters are, the mother of the party, was like, I'm not letting you be alone in this room. Like, something's gonna happen. I'm terrified. Spells started being thrown. Things started going on fire. But I had to realize and take responsibility of the fact that Dylan actually told me at one point, like, this was a chance for his character to have a really impactful backstory moment. And because you didn't give him the space to do that, that didn't happen. And that's really important to recognize, that as a player, sometimes you need to give other people the respect and space to let them have their moment as well. And that was not my intention at all in any way. I was just reacting as I thought my character would. However, I should have read the situation and realized this. Essentially, he was seeing his dead mother in stasis and needed to have a moment to himself. And that would have made a really impactful character moment. And instead of realizing that, I took over that moment for him. And that really sucks, I'm sure, as a player in that moment. But also having respect as a player, letting people have their say, letting people have their space. And if people are shy, being able to bring them in as a player that is more outgoing and extroverted.
Yeah. That was a difficult one for me to DM for, because at some point in time, he was going to have you guys ejected from the room. He had the means to do it. I'm not going to get into super details, but like, he had the means to eject them from the room, and asked me, the NPC who could have done it for him, to do so. And I was about to, but they kind of argued a little bit more for a few moments, and then he took it back. Like, because I would have. So that was like the two things I felt like the only things I could do was like, all right, everyone out, he's going to have his moment, he asked for it, but he took it back. So instead I had to opt to kind of just continue working with what the players gave me, and then afterwards I told Stephanie, who's in question, the player, what had happened. I was kind of like, you kind of robbed him of that moment, you know? Sometimes it's worth it just to like drop nuggets like that on your players, just to like, because it's just like being in a relationship. It's like you have to communicate, you know, you have to
talk.
You have to let stuff out, you know, because it'll drive you crazy in your head. All the stuff you want to do as a DM or want your players to experience within the story, if you don't throw certain things out, people will just simply won't recognize that that's even happening.
Yeah.
You know, they're just having so much fun carrying on, but
yeah, I want to hear about everybody's expectations from players in game, because we've talked about expectation of players outside of games. Like, try as hard as you can to be on time, to be consistent, and if you can, make sure you communicate if you can't make it or anything happens. But in game, I think there do need to be some expectations on players in terms of respect, in terms of not derailing too much. We all love a good shopping session. We all love a good town session where we're in the tavern and we're playing games, we're fucking around with people. We all love that, but at the end of the day, all of you as DMs, Dylan, Anakin, Max, Ace, you have put time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into building this world. And if as a player we say, fuck you, I want to go back to the town and I want to go hook up with some bitches in the brothel.
The
and
bathhouse.
I want to go to a bath. Like, if you do that every single session, you are now telling that DM your time and effort that you put into this, I don't care about. You are here for my entertainment and what I want to do. And I think that is heavily disrespectful as a player. to
Yeah.
derail
That's when
so
the player
much.
gets alcohol poisoning. They end up with multiple STDs.
Right, their stats start going down. You know.
And
You take away
know
our
what?
food.
Just because I'm creative, maybe a piano falls on him.
Right.
A comically large anvil just.
As long as the party consents to it. I don't know what you're talking about, but from what Steph said, as long as the party consents to it, I'm pretty much cool with it. But if it becomes a regular thing, there's got to be consequence.
Well,
Always.
that's what I'm saying. Expectations on players in game.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just really important for players to realize that as the DM, I've literally sat here and watched this man gouge his eyes out for weeks over a session, over a one-shot, over a campaign. Anakin, you have files and files. You have a fucking intro sheet. You literally, we sat here for 4 hours session 1, and I have pages upon pages of this world that you have built. And I feel like as a player, if you do not respect that, you are then not respecting your DM.
And you mean respect as in like dive in.
Enjoy the story.
Yeah.
It all comes down to a good session 0.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I feel like is a good way to pivot this conversation. Because
yeah, I've talked
honestly,
a lot. Y'all go ahead and talk.
Best and most thorough session 0 I've ever had has been with this man right here.
Absolutely. Fucking lootly. Jesus Christ.
Very thorough.
I have my map. I have my map in my
I'm very
book.
concise. I'm very concise. What can I say?
Mm-hmm. Solid session 0, dude. Like, you outlined, first off, the lore behind your world. You outlined your expectations of us. We outlined our expectations of you. And you also had us fill out that what are you comfortable with? Like, where do you draw the line sheet? And I thought that was fantastic. I've seen a couple DMs do that, but not to the extent that you did. But honestly, when session 0 lasts as long as a regular session,
yeah.
But it was all
that's how
worth
you know
it.
you're in for a good session.
It was all worth
a good
it.
campaign.
Yeah.
It was probably our silly homebrew character creation that really made it take that long, to be honest, where we were like picking
A little bit, but
personality traits.
yeah, it was about half and half, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely very important to make sure that expectations are seen from both sides. So session 0s are the answer to that. That's the solution to getting the expectations equaled out and seen from all sides. And you can always make a session 0 in the middle of a campaign. If you never had a session 0, and it's never too late to take a breather from the campaign and to ground yourselves and to
I feel like it may even be a good
reanalyze
idea
everything.
to reiterate a session 0.
I've done it before. I've done it where we took a year into the campaign after our session 0 because that was my first time actually running my own homebrew. And then after a year of running that, I'm like, hey, this is going places, and I want to make sure that we all have the same expectations. And because it's been a year and we played a lot and we've experienced a lot, but we have to do this in order to make sure that we are doing it proper. And so I did it. I had another session 0. I reiterated rules and homebrew rules and made sure that everyone was aware instead of just forgetting, and expectations and all that. So,
Are you looking at Max's
it's
camel
important.
Yeah, what are you, Max? What are you doing?
I think he has a camelback.
What
the fuck?
Oh my god! I was like, is that some kind of hookah I've never seen before? What
Oh my
is
God.
that?
It's a melodica.
Oh my god.
Play a little tune.
Okay.
Oh my
It's
god.
And he's actually good at it.
Oh my god, I'm dead.
Amazing.
Dude, that's
Do
amazing.
you know any Zelda tunes?
Oh my god!
I'm
Play
just-
me the Song of Storms! I love you, Max. Please never change. Jesus. Intermission break.
Alright,
But
I'll
yeah,
shut the fuck up now. That's
I think that's
Hi,
a
Amanda.
really great thing to reiterate over and over again. And as the resident main player here, I also want to let players know, be able to take criticism. Nothing is personal. We are not trying to attack you. A DM, if he has to pull you aside and be like, hey, the way you did this just kind of wasn't respectful. What I tell people all the time, in every instance, in everything, somebody setting boundaries with you is not their attempt to get rid of you. It is their attempt to have you stay.
Big relationship. Fucking that was
I remember when I told Dylan that. I told Dylan that in regards to a friendship he had when he was feeling weird about talking to somebody. Setting boundaries is your way to keep somebody around.
Right.
Not a way to get somebody to leave.
But everyone's knee-jerk reaction is to either get aggressive or defensive, instead of stopping to realize in this moment, this person's confronting me, like you're saying, because they want something good to come of this. There's a problem that's been made and it needs to be resolved. But yeah, if you're going to get defensive or aggressive about it, you just created a new problem, and it's a big bad one at that point if you can't talk about it.
That being said, you also got to remember that when you're setting these boundaries, you're also not attacking, but that's the wrong word to use. But you're addressing someone's personality in some way, shape, or form. You're addressing something about this person that you do not like.
Sensitive.
And you got to remember that when you're doing that, because it's a very tender situation.
Absolutely.
And if they do lash out like that, and it doesn't go the way you want, you always have to remember to reflect and think, what did I do wrong here? Did I do something wrong here? And how can I make this better?
Absolutely. I mean, it's on both sides. It's on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember that criticism is never personal. It is a way to... You don't hate somebody. You don't dislike somebody.
Yeah, because hate's a strong word.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
And as me, who I am, I understand that I'm a lot. I understand that even in game, I will talk over people. In game, I can be a big personality. And in every situation, that doesn't always work. And when Dylan brought to my attention that, hey, you actually stole his moment after being really upset that they'd stolen multiple moments from you, you did the same thing they did. And I was like, oh shit.
100%.
I really did. And that sucks. And unfortunately, the campaign was over by then, so there was nothing that could really be remedied in that sense.
Right.
But being able to sit there and realize, oof, yeah, I made a mistake there, and going forward, I'm going to think more about that, is a really good thing to be able to do as a player. And obviously, as a DM. But I feel like as DMs, y'all are kind of a little bit more used to realizing, oh, yeah, no, y'all beat yourself up more than anybody else does. So.
Well, I didn't earn the title King of HR for nothing.
Right.
I love it.
But it
Something
goes...
I do want to...
You guys overestimate the amount of effort I put into my games.
Something I really do want to address, though, is, like, when you do have those players, like, when Alex was talking about his problem player with that he wasn't really in the game, it depends on how your relationship was with that player, too, is how you address those issues. Because if that player is also a new player, and they just don't fully understand, like, the feel that you're trying to get with the game or anything like that, it's very important to make sure to talk to them about it, because they could very well just not know or just not realize that they are actually, like, you know, going against the rest of the party by doing shit that they want to do as opposed to doing shit that everyone wants to do. So
I've been wanting to say
I think
this.
all problem players are just new players whose problems didn't get addressed.
Yeah, either that
the
or
DM.
just it could be a chemistry thing, because sometimes big personalities work in chemistry with a lot of other people, or you might have 2 or 3 big personalities clashing, and like it is a big chemistry thing too. I feel like every time you engage in a session with people you're not familiar with or a new campaign, be prepared to try and like grow in these relationships and figure out where your niches are. That's why I feel like every new group has Hey, Panoptic, good to see you.
Hi.
Every new group of players, has that icebreaker period. I always think it's on average 2, 3, sometimes 4 sessions in. You won't see them all just mesh and become cohesive right off the bat if they don't know each other. So sometimes someone might seem like a problem player, but it's just them breaking that ice and getting that chemistry in because it's just working with people they aren't familiar with. But I was gonna say, for the past few minutes is like we've been talking about player expectations and talking things out and problems and this like that and a third. I just want to address how hard it probably is from a player's perspective if you ever wanted to talk to your DM about problems. Like, I don't like the way that character was, this thing was, like, or the progression, or what's the word? Max, what's the word I used for you on your one session? The execution and timing, like, because all the bits were there. It was such a beautiful session we did. The timing was just all flummoxed. Everything was like boom, 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 boom.
Pacing, yeah.
Pacing, thank you.
Yeah.
Pacing, right? How hard do you think it is as players to...
Fuck.
Yeah, it's just like right there. How hard is it as players to talk to your DMs about that stuff? Because DMs, like you said, put so much work into this. I would be terrified to talk to a DM about, like, any issues I have.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't even know how to address that. That's something that's got me stuck, I'd say. Max, would you know how to... as kind of like our resident player, if you ever had like, an issue with a DM? Or Ace, in a way.
I find I'm usually quite scared of the DM, just because a lot of the time I think, oh god, they put so much effort into this character. If I go up and be like, could you please not do this thing? It's gonna derail the whole campaign, and they're gonna have to rewrite a whole chapter in their books. But I can tell you, from actually one of the sessions that I DM'd back when I was 17, 2 years ago, I had this character called, it was this plucky little Modron that had just joined the party, and they'd found him in a boat with a cloth covered over him, and he ended up dying a very painful death for some reason.
Oh, God.
I can't remember how, but he got brutally murdered, and it was just destructive for the players. And after the session, this guy called Sven, who was in the party, came up to me and was like, "Bruh, I think that was too much. Could you maybe tone down the ruthless emotional deaths, please? I just kind of want a nice plucky, relaxed little session, if that's okay." I was like, I mean, you gotta go through an entire cube of Acheron, but I'll turn down the emotional deaths. It's okay. I'll see what I can do. They were the problem player, so it was kind of a surprise to see them stepping up for the party and being like one of the oh god. The messenger, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He ended up leaving, though, because his playstyle was not compatible, according to the other players.
Oh.
Yeah. That's my story.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example.
It's a great example and another example of why Anakin's point of session 0 is so important. Of outlining what a session's going to be and the expectation of it.
I'll cite a time that I actually had a rough time in one of your sessions, Dylan. I've actually had a couple rough sessions. I've had a few rough sessions with you, actually, Dylan. But none of them were actually like to the point where I wanted to say something until the third one, which was that the higher level siege that we ran.
Yeah.
With the siege mechanics and all that, and it ended up being, I failed a perception check, so we got like rushed from the side by something. I lost all my men, and then I had to spend basically the rest of combat struggling.
Yeah.
And the rest of the session, the final 3 hours of the session, were just me struggling through this combat, trying to stay alive.
the final 3 sessions.
That was
3 hours.
Yeah, dude, it was rough. It was really rough.
Fighting for his life, like, constantly, because like one bad tactical maneuver, and
bad mechanics, or well, unfavorable mechanics. I shouldn't say bad, because they were experimental, which is why I didn't hold it against you. But like I said, that's how you handle something like that. Like in my specific situation, Dylan was using experimental mechanics. It was a session he'd run a couple times, and nothing this bad had ever happened. But that's how you work out experimental mechanics. That's why we call them experimental.
Yeah. Like,
but after the
Aces
session, I hung back. I hung back. I didn't mope around during the session. I didn't draw attention to it. It's just after the session, I said, "Hey, man, I didn't have a good time. Here's why." And I don't hold it against you. It's not me against you. It's not Ace versus Dylan. I had a bad time because of this.
Yeah, we did.
That doesn't mean I'm going to have a bad time every time. That doesn't mean I want to stop playing with you. That just means this didn't go well. Here's how I feel that you could improve this.
It was perfect. He maintained his decorum as best as he possibly could in respect to the other players present, and then yes, after that he talked to me about it. It was literally picture perfect. Everything we've been describing was how kind of Ace handled that situation, and it was 100% on me that he got bushwhacked because I
sat through that 3 hours because I didn't want to interrupt the session.
It was. There's really not a lot to say in my defense. It really was just a series of circumstances. I vaguely assumed, because literally everyone you were playing with had ran the siege before. They more or less knew it was coming, but kind of just, I don't know. And I know I had been pulling so many punches for so long that I was like, crap, throw in a perception check. No, crap, throw in another perception check. No, crap, all right, screw it. I was like, I just did it.
I only remember one, boy.
It was one for you and then one for whoever was in control. Was it Claire's character?
Wasn't it Nefer that had the
It was Claire's character because he was running by on the golem, and he was the first check. The second check was Ace's character.
Claire had the golem. Nefer was our he was flying around on the broom. On the broom.
Supposed to be,
circling.
Right. But that situation we handled for the most part. We talked about it, and I was like, yeah, it's... And, I don't think, because I have a terrible memory. I'm sure I apologized. At least I hope I did. I didn't like what happened either. I was like, shit.
We still won. We still won. Everything turned out okay. I didn't die. It's just I didn't get to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got...
When you have an explicit problem like that, it is important, and this goes for anyone, to just talk about it, bring it up in some way, shape, or form, because if nothing is said, nothing is done, and nothing will change. So Absolutely. If you want something to change, you have to talk about it. So that's the important thing, is to just bring it up.
Well, and like we said, from player to DM, it can be hard. So how do you think as DMs, how can you fix that fear? What can you do for your players? What can you say to your players? What can you give to your players to say, if you have a problem, and I might just be, telling you right now what to do. If you have a problem, always feel free to talk to me. I will not take it personally or get angry or anything like that. Just talk.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're like the CEO. You're the manager of the office, and you're saying, yeah, guys, I have an open door policy. It's like, how many people use those, right? I don't know. Yeah.
You guys have seen how I am with my players. I'm best friends with all my players. We are all like that. And what I do for that is I always make sure that they see me as a player too. Yeah, I may be running the campaign, but every once in a while I'll be like, hey, you can DM, right? Your turn.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for your players to see you as a player as well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean... I know it's trickier for you, Dylan, specifically because of your whole setup.
Right.
But in a more home-based game, or even like on my private server when we do one shots and stuff, I always make sure that I'm not always DMing, because that puts me in a position of authority, and it's a game. You're with your friends playing a game, and no one should really have authority.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's always going to be the mom of the group or the dad of the group, Stephanie. But
I think
know,
that's important. I think that's
Mhm.
so important. What we do here outside of game, and it's not able for everybody, right? Some people go to play D&D and that's all they want to do and that they want to leave. But here in our community, in literally every Discord now that we've all created and we're all intermingled in, we all chill.
Yeah.
We're just people. We hang out, we play games together. Sometimes we sit in silence for 6 hours and we all play our own games. And sometimes we're watching Ace and Max stream some Pokemon, or
Play whatever the fuck that is.
right, or just dick around or talk
Or
about our
cooking
life,
shows.
or cooking shows, or Anakin's little brother, who I'm in love
Oh
with.
my god, Anakin's little brother.
Fucking Anakin's little brother. I love him so much, and I'm so upset that I scared him so bad. But I think it's important to
I remember that.
I think it's important to just breed that environment of friendship, because it's a lot easier to say, hey, you're my friend. I want you to continue to be my friend. I have this problem. I really want to fix it so we don't have this problem again and no one's uncomfortable. It's a lot easier that way than, and again, it's not available for every situation. Sometimes you're just going to a game shop, you're seeing this person once a week, you don't have any real contact with them afterwards. That can be a little bit more difficult. But thankfully, because we have the internet and because we're all nerds and we're on our computers all the time outside of work or relationships, it's a little easier to do that. And that's really great to hear, Amanda. I'm really glad that you say you don't think you've had a problem with anyone in the server. That's amazing.
I just feel bad for Zero's son reading that he had like one of the worst games ever, but everyone's still like, it's great at the end, right? Like,
so, I mean, there are, as a DM, there are a lot of really just people techniques that you have to keep in mind with. Like, one of them that I implement is you have to, it's not necessarily an open door policy, but be open-minded very much to whatever anyone says. Like, if someone seems like they have some sort of issue, you're able to pick that up from someone. It's okay to be persistent in asking them, hey, is everything all right? Even like after the game or during the game, like, hey, are you okay with what's going on? Are you okay with this game? Are you guys having fun? Like, should we do something else? Do you guys want to do something else? Asking questions is important because that gets them thinking, and that gets them to answering the questions that they even want answered.
Yeah.
So the three things that I implement as techniques are, if someone comes to me with a problem or if they're going to miss a session or something, you have to be very open-minded and you have to be very accepting of their problems. The second thing is you have to, if you see a problem with someone, you have to be very inquisitive, I would say, really is the right term. You have to veer into their own mindset to get to the bottom of what exactly is wrong. The third thing is persistence. Like, if you want them to have a good time, then you should do what it takes for them to have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what persistence is for, and patience goes with that hand in hand.
Absolutely.
I respect you all the more as a DM now, having heard you say that, because legit, when I came to Anakin, I said, hey man, I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off. I'm not going to be able to make it to the game. And I saw everything that the way he addressed me coming to him with that is everything he just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just remembering people are human. We have lives. There's stuff going on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Anakin, I remember a couple, I guess it was probably about a month now, because a lot of things were going on, when we could all tell something was going on. You weren't at your best. And we didn't say anything. We still enjoyed the session, but eventually we were like, hey, you seem off. You don't seem like yourself. Is everything going all right? What's going on? And we didn't, whatever issue might have happened with the session wasn't a big deal, because you're human. Something was going on. I don't care who you are. I don't care what's going on. If something's going on in your life that's really affecting you, it's going to kind of trickle into everything. even if you're really good at leaving it at the door. Remembering, especially for your DMs players, please remember, they are human.
Yeah.
They have their own lives. Stuff happens. Shit's been crazy this past 2 years with COVID and everything else. And sometimes you're going to have a bad day. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean you suck. And that doesn't mean every day is going to be bad. It's just today really, really sucks, you know?
Yeah.
And I just remembering people are human and being patient. I think that's a great point.
And if you find yourself surrounded by people that don't feel that way, then
Come here.
murder them. Just kill them in cold blood.
Or that, sure.
I'm kidding.
For the record, we don't condone murder.
I do.
It is also important to say that you should really be surrounding yourself with people that actually care and that
Surround yourself
you
with
are
positivity.
comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all playing D&D, and if you're playing D&D, probably a depressed fuck.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a surprise to anyone here. It shouldn't be, but fun fact.
Things might be slow or like.
I mean, I'd say I'm pretty healthy mentally, but
All right, Max. Sure. It's all right.
this
Keep
is a
taking that.
fun fucking game.
That's not life.
He does have all the energy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a wonderful outlet to have. Yeah.
Cue the
Oh,
melodica.
I bet I could play shandies and shit on this thing.
Oh my
Hold
God,
on.
do it.
Send it.
Oh man. It's like the accordion. Oh my god, it's the accordion from Sea of Thieves.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
We need to have like Max
These
outros.
flashbacks.
Oh my God, please, Max, make all our outros.
Oh, bruh, I will write intros and outros
Oh
for
my
sessions
God,
and
I'm
shit if you
dead.
need.
Oh my
Max
God.
needs to write us all theme songs. Let's be
Bro.
real here.
The melodica,
Okay.
like intro to Tavern Talk and outro to Tavern Talk would be so amazing.
Let's just go do 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 do
Yeah.
do 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 do
Bro.
do 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 do.
So close.
Nah, fuck.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
We're just gonna turn into a talk show, and Max is just gonna be over in the corner with the band.
He's the band guy, right?
He's that, but
They keep referring to him. He just goes like this and that. He doesn't have any lines. He just.
no, but that's a great point. Is because I think something that Max was talking about with the player that left because his play style doesn't match. That is something too. Sometimes play styles are not compatible. We are a heavy roleplay group. We are. And if you're somebody that strictly loves combat and loves min-maxing, yes, Ace, I know, I'm pointing you out right now. Yes.
Shut up, Max.
It's not always
Or maybe
going
you
to
wanted
be fun for you to play a murder on the lark session where there's no combat. You're not even using your spells. It's just roleplay. You're not going to like that. And that's fucking okay. Like, that's just fine.
When I said play style, I said it in like inverted commas.
Oh, I know.
'Cause,
I know.
He was literally killing off major NPCs and just being like, "All right, guys, let's go burn down some shit."
Oh, so he was just a murder
Please
hobo.
don't.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
got sloppy halfway through the session and left the party and went to sit on the dock while we were still doing plot. And it was like a whole thing. We spent like half the session just trying to talk him into helping, and it became such a slog. And even he understood that. I gave him 2 more chances in the following 2 sessions, and then talked to the party members, and they were like, "Yeah, I think we need to make a unanimous decision to talk to him, and maybe then subsequently kick him."
Right, which is never fun. You don't want to have
Yeah.
to, but like, yeah. I mean, because it's so weird. There's 2 sides of it, you know. Like in my campaign, I had whole sections and whole things written out that were never seen because players wanted to go get drunk on wine and buy clothes that really don't really matter to the game. Other than that, it's fun, and that was okay. to be honest, I played off what the players gave me. You know, I gave them what they wanted. I made a shopkeeper who was like super.
Oh, Sylvanas.
You know,
Sylvanas'
Sylvanas' silks.
I loved it.
He was amazing. Like the whole interaction in Sylvanas' silk shop, was
when
fantastic.
Vari cut the dress in front of his face.
Because-
oh my god.
Because Quen, he's the token guy who wants to just kind of like go around and have fun.
It's Michael's character, Quinn.
Yeah, he wanted to go around and have fun and do things, which wasn't really relevant to anything. But we ran with it, and like, it became really funny. It was hilarious with Sylvanas' silks, and
Filler sessions like that are the best.
yeah.
They are
And
a lot
I think
of fun.
they're also the hardest to DM because that's where the players are going to be bored unless you get creative with it. Create a fun NPC. Come up with a catchy shop name. But the hardest part is you have to do it on the spot.
Yeah.
Because I doubt you prepared for that.
No, Sylvanas' silks was completely made up.
God, that was so much fun. It
But
was
I got
so
a
much
picture
fun.
on for the character. I made a whole voice. I had the whole shop done up, and it was amazing. Like Quen and the Sylvanas character I made up on the fly were just like vibing so hard that it.
And that was
it
when
ramped
Gigi
up.
was still there, and I think those sessions are also heavily dependent on the players to actually be involved. Because those sessions can be really boring if the players are not purposely involving themselves. And my favorite part about Sylvanas' silks is all Quinn wanted was beautiful, lustrous clothes that we could walk down the street in. And me and Gigi, the two fucking... I wasn't a barbarian, but I might as well have been. You know, I was this nature freak that didn't wear shoes. And she was this... dwarf that didn't care, and he's like dressing us, and we're like, I don't. And she just takes her dagger, cuts the dress down, and Quinn and Sylvanas was like,
He talked about the dresses as if they were people. Sylvanas, the character, and he's like, "You,
Oh, I love that.
my beautiful dresses,
Oh, that's so cool.
murderer!" Like, you murdered my dresses.
Hi, Gemma.
Child.
Hey, Gemma. Oh
So
my
I mean,
God.
it's so much more of a give and take, and that's something I really like to reiterate from players is
Oh,
it is not your DM.
here to
do
listen in the
everything.
background? Let me help you out there.
Another dance party happening for anybody that didn't catch the return of
God.
Villageville. I'm going to reiterate,
Electric Boogaloo.
the final boss battle was a dance-off between a lich, an arch-vampire, and a Baloth. And guess
God,
who the
that was
fuck
so much
won?
fun.
We did.
You guys won the dance battle.
We won by a lucky crit. We won by a lucky crit.
God damn.
It was epic.
We
man.
won with a combined roll of 69. Nice.
Nice.
So, when's Villageville 3?
We had a date, right?
We had
August
a
4th?
date. It was August 6th.
Oh
August-
shit, there's actually gonna be a thing?
There
August
is.
6th. It's
What day is that?
It's a
Yes.
Friday.
It's a Friday, okay.
Yes, August
The
6th.
return of Steve Fartzenegger.
Yo, when is Proterra coming again?
I am gonna get with the whole team on it, I think, after this tavern talk, which there is only 2 minutes left, so if someone has a particularly melodic outro for us.
Somebody.
I don't know if anybody can play music or anything.
Alright,
Mhm.
Max, we're gonna raid someone else's channel.
Go.
If you can just hit us with some nice beats on our way out.
I love it. All right, we're gonna go out and raid. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
already
I
raided
know it's fine.
We already rated them.
Everybody's gonna comment anyway.
Oh man. That was
Yo,
great.
yo.
All right, what random thing are we gonna say in this person's chat?